So which attribution setting inside Meta gives you the best ROAS? I'm spending more than 5 million per month on Meta specifically, and this is the best attribution settings with some very interesting data that I'm going to be presenting you within the accounts themselves. So you can obviously make better decisions for your own business and really drive the most amount of revenue as possible. If you're interested in more trainings like that, please feel free to click the link below. You can see how we can actually work together. But let's actually dive straight into the video. Again, which attribution gives the best ROAS? And by attribution setting, just for making sure we are all clear, I mean, obviously, are we going to use 7-day click? Are we going to use 7-day click, 1-day view? Are we going to use 7-day click, 1 gauge view? Or maybe do we want to use incremental attribution, which is a new setting that Meta actually got launched over the last few months. So there are a few things here that we need to iron before we dive into the actual results here and the kind of breakdown. The first thing is we need to understand like what is the ultimate goal with our attribution window. It's obviously more ROAS, right? It's obviously more revenue and more results and more purchases and more volume to our business. But that doesn't mean always the highest ROAS though. Obviously this is potentially a separate complete video, but it doesn't mean that the higher the ROAS, the more revenue or the more results that we bring into the business, or even more important, the ROAS depicted and shown and attributed inside the ad account is the actual ROAS. And that can get the waters a bit muddy, and essentially it can mean that you really can't really trust the ROAS inside the ad platform. So what we are looking here is an attribution setting that better correlates with our bottom line, better correlates with our revenue, better correlates with our Shopify numbers. So we are looking at the least, or at least the smallest discrepancy between our purchases and basically our data inside the ad account with our data inside Shopify and the actual attributed data. So we want basically Meta to not over-report, but actually have a pretty accurate view of what's happening, as close as it can be, because obviously it can never be 100%. So that's the ultimate goal. So again, we are not optimizing for the highest ROAS. There's a lot of freelancers, agencies, contractors that are going to be playing around with those settings, and we are going to see how they're going to give you high ROAS, and it kind of looks good on a report. But then 6 to 12 months from now, when you're going to report your earnings, you're going to see completely different numbers. So again, it's something to really focus on and make sure that everything is incremental as possible from the ad accounts to revenue. So we're going to use an example here so I can obviously demonstrate what is going to be the best possible solution, or at least what we found. So this is an ad account spending roughly around 300K per month and optimized on a 7-day click, 1-day view. We can see this specifically on a very specific kind of ad set here. And we're going to see here the highest spending ads, we're going to see a very decent ROAS, 3.2 ROAS, the first ad actually 3.8, and then 2.4, 5.20, and the list goes on essentially. Very, very kind of decent numbers for this business. Like for context, we optimize really for a 2.2 new customer ROAS though, based on Triple. But again, anything above 2.2 here is going to be very, very beneficial. Now, this is 7-day click, 1-day view. Let's look at the same picture now, but with a breakdown view. So if you go into the ads manager, you go into, I think is the breakdown, or and you click on compare attribution settings, you're gonna be shown with a few options, basically 7-day click, 1-day view, and it gives you all the basically available attribution settings that you have on Meta. If you click on them, they will give you a setting like this, not saying like a view like this, essentially. A view like this. And what I'm comparing here is incremental attribution, is 7-day click and 1-day view. And you can see here, the very interesting thing here to kind of note is you can see 1-day view is really 1-day view here is around 55% of the total purchases. Now, this is a big red flag for if you're optimizing for 7-day click, 1-day view. If I see that the view through conversions being more than 20% of my conversions, this is a big red flag. It means that Meta is essentially over-reporting, and that a lot of those conversions are basically either never happened, or it then turns into a more of a middle funnel, bottom funnel play. Because the issue with the 7-day click, 1-day view is that this is not as incremental. So what it ends, and the main issue is that Meta also optimizes for that 1-day view conversion that it actually attributes. So basically what happens, Meta then optimize for a lot of like people who have visited the kind of website, maybe obviously just view the ad and obviously never purchase, and just hopped on the website, and then it turns into a kind of middle funnel, bottom funnel play, which we don't want. We want incremental purchases and obviously more revenue, more new customer revenue as well. So this is a big red flag. I highly recommend going into your account and see if you're running 7-day click, 1-day view, see the comparison. Now, if that was, for example, 200 purchases or like 300 purchases, I wouldn't be too worried, but I still feel like 7-day click will always give you the most incremental purchases. But let's actually dive this a bit deeper because it's super interesting. And what I've done here is I basically recreated the same screenshot by using the incremental attribution. So now Meta gives you a view that is obviously incremental attribution, which is essentially what we actually want here. How many of those purchases are actually incremental to the revenue? And here you can see something very interesting. This is obviously the same screenshot. You remember, we had a 3.8, very strong performance, and you can see the incremental attribution is almost half, if not, almost exactly half here, which essentially means there's a lot of view through conversions over-reporting. And actually, if we take a look at here, the 7-day click ROAS is 1.4, and obviously this is not a great example because this is across a campaign. This is on a specific ad set, so this will be different. But you can see it's still very closer to the incremental, and usually incremental attribution is actually slightly lower than 7-day click. But this is a great learning for you, and another data point to again cross-check between your actual purchases and your actual revenue generated from Meta compared to what's actually being shown inside the Meta ad accounts. So the nugget here is, if you are optimizing for view through conversions, make sure to just not optimize for view through conversions and switch to a 7-day click. Or let's see a few other examples here. Or a new actual setting, at least recently new, I think it's like a year or so, is on 7-day click, 1-day engage view. What that does essentially, the engage view is basically only capturing that 1-day view if someone actually clicked on an ad and went somewhere, so it doesn't count link clicks. So it's again much more incremental. Now, for all transparency, we're still now testing this. I'm still testing this, and I haven't really seen I haven't had conclusive data to report back. So I'll make a separate video specifically on that 7-day click, 1-day engage view once I'm obviously getting this across most of my accounts, because usually it has been 7-day click mostly, but obviously there is a benefit when you're running when you're running at scale a lot of video assets to have that engaged view as well, which can be very beneficial. So the nutshell here is, in a nutshell, make sure you lean into 7-day click, or at least 7-day click, 1-day engage view. This is really an issue, especially when you are at the 8-figure, maybe high 7-figure range, because obviously as you scale, the amount of purchases coming through view through, and the more they optimize it through more spent, is really going to have a lot of disadvantages on your actual Meta reporting. And there's a caveat to that though. The 7-day click, 1-day view is, I think, great, or at least beneficial when you don't have a lot of data. So for example, if you're a 6-figure business or even a low 7-figure business with high AOV, potentially you don't have a lot of data, start optimizing for that 7-day click one day, or for that 7-day click specifically. And then we want to give Meta as much data as possible, so you start to reaching our customers and start getting our message out there to our customers essentially. So that's a great way to use 7-day click one day view. So if you're just starting out, just use 7-day click one day view. Don't worry about it. But as you scale, make sure you really don't leave money on the table and switch to a 7-day click. Now, in terms of incremental attribution, I'm gonna make a separate video for this specifically, but in a nutshell, I'm also still testing this. So there is an option on an ad level to optimize for incremental attribution compared to the kind of standard, which again, I'm still testing those, but again, in theory, is still some beneficial to test when you are at that scale as well, and you have also been running on a 7-day click as well. You have a lot of data, and you're really looking for Meta to do that heavy lifting in terms of like providing incremental attributions. But I'll do a specific separate video for that. But I think in a nutshell, what I would recommend, switch to 7-day click or 7-day click 1-day engage view if you are spending decent amount of money on Meta. If you are starting out or you potentially have a high AOV, you don't have a lot of data inside the account, go to 7-day click 1-day view. But really play out with those breakdowns. I think those are very, very interesting data points to play out for your business as well. And it's very easy to kind of pull out that reporting and actually track it month per month. So you can see also the difference between the performance and the actual NC revenue and to the attribution setting. But that was the video for today. I hope you really, really enjoyed it. I really appreciate taking the time. If you want more resource like that, feel free the link, click the link below. Have a look below in the description. I have some free resources as well as obviously some options to work with me directly. Thanks a lot for watching this. Hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.